was under Indira Gandhi. Then comes, after a few years, almost 18 years, in 1968 we had the 86 we had the second education policy. 1986, second education policy. And after that, now 34 years over. So the government wanted a new education policy. Remember, the present dispensation. The present dispensation means the central government, which is the party which is ruling, has always an interest in education. Keep that in mind. So therefore, when they got power in the earlier you remember that 2000 and so on, when Mr. Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, they took drastic steps to change his education policy, and that after that government fell. Then again a lot of changes have been brought by later on, and then we had the 2014 this government came in. The first commission that government was formed was on education. And then this commission was known as Mr. T.S.R. Subramanian Commission, a bureaucrat, former cabinet secretary. He was ready with a few people, only 5 people were members of this commission, and that commission report was submitted to the government. The draft was submitted in 2016, and this policy report was a small thing which was opposed from within the parliament and outside by everybody. Almost all the academicians, thinkers, writers, educationists opposed that policy of 2016 policy. As a result, the government has shelved that policy. They have not cancelled. They simply shelved it. Keep this in mind. The background you must understand. Otherwise, you will not get to the policy. So 2016 policy, T.S.R. Subramanian Commission policy was shelved. Then they formed a new commission under Kasturi Rangan. And Kasturi Rangan, I am sure that you are all familiar with him very much. Kasturi Rangan Commission, all of you are familiar in Kerala. Now, Kasturi Rangan is a favorite guy for this government who can jump into any aspect because he has a impeccable career as a scientist and also as a great person. So he was appointed and he consulted various ways and so on. We were also very much part of this consultation. In fact, I was part of it also. We met 3 times, the education minister and Dr. Kasturi Rangan Commission itself. And in fact, I got a beautiful letter on behalf of my organization, Jesuits. He has written a very beautiful letter, and he said, your organization's contribution we really recognize, etc. Now, my point is that commission submitted the draft, which is 484 page. That 484 page document was submitted in 2019. And then this government just took time asking people to suggest your opinions, your suggestions, etc. And in 2019, beginning itself, that report was ready, but due to election, etc., that was postponed from declaration, and now it has come out. This is the background. And remember, this was not at all discussed in the parliament, neither in any of the assemblies or anything. No governmental discussion at any level has happened, except organizations were called. National consultations had happened in various levels of organizations, etc. So this is the background in which the policy came up, especially in this pandemic period. So this is the background of this policy. Now you can watch the small presentation which I have, which will help you to understand about this policy much better. I hope I will be able to show the policy. If Father Gio, if you can see, just tell me. Once I if you can see, just tell me this one. Then I will continue. Otherwise, without that I will speak.
Okay.
Can you see this? Has it come?
No, Father. I don't see.
Not yet. Let's just wait a second. Once it
okay,
takes
fine.
time.
Okay. It
has come?
Okay. Yeah, it's okay, fine.
Just read the heading, Father.
Summary of the National Education Policy.
Okay. That's all. I understood. That means you got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I am just bringing the summary, and I will be stressing on the higher education. Since you are all higher education people, school education, I am not going to deal that much, but I will touch upon the major aspects. That's it. Okay. Look at the policy, how it evolved. I told you already. University Education Commission was there. Second Education Commission in 52-53. Education Commission, Kothari Commission, which I told you. And the National Education Policy was declared. First education policy was in 1968. Then, through 42nd Amendment of the Constitution in 1976, education was included into the concurrent list. That means, so far, the education was up to 1975 or 1976, it was the central government's duty. Now it came up in 1976, concurrent list. It was included in concurrent list only in 76. That means both state and central has equal role in education. According to the regional needs, according to the regional experience of the people and the need of the people, policies can be prepared by the state government also. That's a wonderful thing that happened. National Education Policy 86 came up. You know all this, but I don't have much time to explain. National Education Policy 86 had two important aspects. I am sure that all of you as scholars must understand. 86 policy was prepared by the government of Rajiv Gandhi. And Rajiv Gandhi government prepared this education policy, asked the commission to prepare this education policy based focused on two important aspects. The first aspect was national integration. National integration, why? Because 84 Indira Gandhi was murdered. And prior to that, when Azar, this Khalistan, etc., they're asking for independent country in Punjab and also in the northeastern states and other various other aspects, including in Sri Lanka. There was a lot of problems and that has its repercussion in Tamil Nadu, etc. So Rajiv Gandhi government said, no, we need national integration. We keep up the diversity. We keep up the diversity, but we are one as Indians. So therefore, Indian states have to work together. So national integration is the first primary concern for 86 policy. And number 2, in 86 policies, number 2 pillar of the policy is Indian Constitution. Importance must be given to Indian Constitution because there are reasons. I am just mentioning for you, are all scholars, therefore without any prejudice, any party, anything, I am just telling you. In 1986, this policy stressed on Indian Constitution because by then there was certain political parties emerging which has some problem with Indian Constitution, at least in perception level. That is why these people said, no, 86 policy must bring back these constitutional values and children must be taught well so that the future of this country will be based on the Indian constitutional values. Now, that was modified in 1992 much more strongly because 1991 already there was division among people because of the one temple issue, etc. You know this. And then 86 also there was changes that were happening in the country. Liberalization, globalization, technological development, everything has to be considered. Therefore, Mr. Narasimha Rao's government reworked on 1986 policy and a little more reform had happened. A program of action was introduced. And then I told already, next one is 27th May onwards, TSR Subramaniam submitted this report. Dr. K. Kasturirangan later on submitted and national education policy now has been declared. You must understand this thread. Then only you will understand the policy well. That is why, please, I'm not going to tell you any other things except this background so that intelligent people will understand where it is moving. Otherwise, we will simply blindly this way or that way we will say. We should be academicians. We must understand where it is all moving. Now, this government says, this policy, about this policy, so many discussions had happened. 2.5 lakh gram panchayats and so on and so forth. Draft LP summary in 22 languages available. Education dialogue with MPs, especially MPs of AP, Kerala, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Puducherry, Karnataka, Odisha, etc. Why these southern states were opposing. These states were opposing about the language policy. That's why they were called specially and discussed. Special meeting was happening. Central, all kinds of associations were there. And Parliamentary Standing Committee on Education also discussed about this. And in order to show you, I'm just putting this picture. Remember this background. 68 policy came as a result of this 48 and 52 policies. And 86 policy came. And now we have the Kasturirangan Commission. Rest of the things, don't worry. I'm just moving ahead. Now, when you remember, when you understand this policy, as Bishop said, lot of goodness and lot of badness, etc. Look at this first of all. In order to understand whether it is good or bad, you must decide. Not I am not deciding. I am just showing some proofs. You look at this. The vision of the draft NEP 2019 submitted by Dr. Kasturirangan Commission, and all of us as scholars, all of you know, vision is the sum and summary of the entire policy. This you should not forget. Any vision, suppose a congregation has a vision, diocese has a vision, KCBC has a vision. That vision will explain later on through the pages. That's all. Now the Kasturirangan Commission submitted 484-page vision. In that vision, kindly read, all of you can see. Now by now you must have read this on the screen. Already, the National Education Policy 2019 envisions an India-centered education system that contributes directly to transforming our nation sustainably into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing high-quality education to all. I am sure you must observe this policy. This is this much only the vision of the policy, which will be explained in the 484 pages. And I hope you have noticed that when I said about 1986 policy was stressing on Indian Constitution, is there any word about the Constitution in this vision? This is the first thing you must keep in mind. This is about the draft policy, okay? Then we all criticized, we all gave good comments, etc. And we submitted our responses, various organizations. As a result, the new education policy 2020 changed that vision. But again, as intelligent people, I am putting before you. You must judge. What are the changes they have made? Please have a proper analysis. Don't say everything is not good, everything is good. Please understand this. This national education policy envisions an education system rooted in Indian ethos that contributes directly to transforming India, that is Bharat, sustainably into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society, which was there earlier. That India-centeredness, which they talked in one line, one word or something, that has been simply interpreted in this vision. And very nicely they said, this policy envisages that the curriculum and pedagogy of our institution must develop among the students. Again, a deep sense of respect towards the fundamental duties and constitutional values, bonding with one's country, and a conscious awareness of one's roles and responsibilities in the changing world. And also again it says that India-centeredness, earlier said that one word, that is this word India-centeredness, have been explained here. It says to instill among the learners a deep-rooted pride in being Indian, not only in thought, but also in spirit, intellect, and deeds, as well as to develop knowledge, skills, values, dispositions, etc. They are talking about values, as Bishop said. They are talking about values. But my only question is, those who are, again, as a scholars, you must understand what I am saying, without any unnecessary questions, etc. I am just asking you, can you understand this constitutional values? If you put one word, as it was in the earlier policy, they said about India-centeredness, and here it is explained here so much, then constitutional values was one word was enough to entire constitution would have come. But they have mentioned here especially these fundamental duties. I hope as educationists, you should not go unnoticed this word. Fundamental duties has come. If since they put this one, I am asking, why they did not put the fundamental rights, which is the basics of all of us. Fundamental rights gives us 6 freedom, freedom of religion, freedom to express oneself, freedom to seek for constitutional remedies, etc., etc. That is the foundation of entire constitution. So they put the fundamental duties they brought out, fundamental rights they did not mention. If it was not there, only constitution values, scholars would not have raised this question at all. So that much I am just putting for you to reflect again. Now coming to the school education, this is the examples in this policy. There's 4 parts. The first part is about school education. Fundamental literacy and numeracy. Since you have questions and so on, some of you asked, I will answer up. Education at all levels. 4 chapter the curriculum and pedagogy. Learning should be holistic, integrated, and engaging. 1 chapter 5 teachers requires all teachers is very, very important. It's a very long passage. And in English they talk about effective governance through school complexes affect the minority schools, so that just keep this in mind. And standard setting and time it is giving a lot of restrictions also on paper. Now what is going to the implementation? We have to wait and watch. The third part is other key areas of focus. Professional education, adult education, and so on they are talking about, which are mostly about technology and so on. And fourth part for this, making it happen, how is it going to be financed, how it is to strengthen the board of education, etc., and implementation, and so on and so forth. If so, the entire policy, both school education and higher education, is centered on 8 key principles according to this policy. Very good, wonderful, and all. I'm sure when you look at this, how Christian it is, you will understand. Very nice. All the key principles are no problem. All of us accept. Universally accepted principles. Number 1 is respect for diversity and local context to be reflected in all curriculum, pedagogy, and policy. Number 1. Beautiful. Do we have any objection to this? Not at all. Respect for diversity, that's what we are also standing for. I am sure that Alfonso College will accept wholeheartedly respect for diversity and the local context. No problem. Number 2, equity and inclusion. That also we have no problem. We are standing for that only. All Christian church was so many years working for this. Equity and inclusion. So there is no question of this also. Community participation, uplifting, philanthropic, private community participation. Community participation also very much we need to do, and there is no objection to that also. I don't think that anybody will object. Use of technology in every field is very, very important for us. Use of technology in teaching and learning, removing language barriers. This has some problem. Use of technology, we have no difficulty, but when it comes to the language, etc., there is some kind of a confusion, and I see that some of you have asked me that question also. I will just passingly mention later. Emphasize conceptual understanding. This is very, very important because most of our schools and educational institutions are examination-oriented education we are giving. That's why His Excellency Bishop told that moral education, the moral values, the integral education, etc., is slowly missing. And what type of a value they are talking, etc., must be a point for us to question. And anyway, now this education policy says, we need emphasis on conceptual understanding. Children must understand the concept of the subject, not examination-oriented study. Next one is unique capabilities of each individual must be recognizing. I'm sure that most of you, Bishop himself said just now in the foreign countries, etc., the education, the importance given to education in Europe, etc., that is because those countries have developed especially multiple intelligence-based education. That is the reason. Multiple intelligence-based education recognize the individual's aptitude, his trait, his capability, and based on pupil-centered education they are giving, not about one size fit for all education which we giving. So therefore, you now this bringing this aspect here. Let's see how it will. Critical thing, for example, last 500 years, the Jesuits are standing for critical thinking for the schools and colleges. CBCI education policy has brought out this aspect very well. We need to have it. But my dear friends who are sitting here, please, written in the paper is wonderful, all these things, especially critical thinking. But what is a ground reality? How is it going to be implemented? We have seen in the universities. I'm just putting that aspect for your reflection. We have seen in Rohit Vemula's situation in Hyderabad University. We have seen in Jamia Millia. We have seen in Aligarh Muslim University, Banaras Hindu University, Jadavpur University. We have seen the universities after university. So writing on the paper is one thing. What is actual ground reality must not be forgotten. Okay. Continuous review, build on sustained research and very, very progressive. Continuous review must be done, not on the basis of examination results alone. The review has to be done on the overall achievement of the student. These key principles, we have no problem. Wonderful. Now coming to the major areas. School education, I told you, at least for remember the structure, chapter 1 to 8. I'm not going to explain, but remember that. These are the major areas of schools. As minority educational people, whether it is anywhere in India, in Kerala also, keep this red colored section only valid somehow. But these areas are going to be a little difficult situation coming days for especially minorities. I'll explain that later. Now, utilize the unused capacity of schools for Samajik Chetana Kendras. Means the government, this is part of the school complex system. When the school complex starts, these unused classrooms and unused schools, etc., will be used as Samajik Chetana Kendras. And as far as our concern, this is a big concern because governmental properties or governmental schools or even private schools areas will be occupied by certain politically influenced groups, no doubt. Anyway, keep that in mind. Bal Bhavans means instead of schooling, many children will gather in the village and learn arts and music and dance and etc. etc. Catch them young is the policy here. You will see how it works out in the pages, chapter 4. Curriculum to integrate Indian culture and ethos at all levels. Fantastic. As Bishop rightly pointed out, what is this Indian culture and ethos? Is it a composite culture? That is a doubt we must raise. Because the policy does not talk about anything about diversity, anything about integration of cultures or the composite culture. National Assessment Center, PARAK, will be formed. And as Bishop just now said, we are going to be a lot of freedom, but when you look at the organization setup which is going to be in place, that is not going to happen at all, that freedom. Anyway, PARAK, we will see that one later. PARAK means Performance Assessment, Reviewed and Analysis of Knowledge and Holistic Development. In short form, they put PARAK. It includes shifting towards competency-based assessment and promoting critical and creative thinking aligned to 21st century classrooms. If it works out, very good, we must support. Here are the objections of PARAK. Conducting the National Achievement Survey. You see, everything will be national level. Guiding the State Achievement Survey, SAS. Setting norms, standards and guidelines for evaluation and assessment. Every school's assessment will be done on the basis of this PARAK assessment. Now, mind you, when I talk this one, you must also keep in mind this policy, as Bishop mentioned, does not talk about minority rights at all. It only talks about, very good way they're talking, only about government and private schools, our private institutions. So there is no minority rights absolutely going to be. Therefore, everything will be in one umbrella arrangement, which is called private government system. Both will be approved, accredited and assessed by the same agencies. Keep this in also mind. So don't get under the illusion that everything is free and so on, which is not going to happen. I'll tell you next. Monitoring learning outcomes also by this group will be monitoring all these things. Another area is this: Log Vidya, local artists and master instructors in the schools will be given them a chance to teach and so on. Every child learns at least one vocation and exposed to several more. No problem. Very good. Standard 6 onwards, vocational education will start. Okay. Now there are various things, teacher recruitment and so on, many things which a bishop mentioned. I am sure that you must have gone through already. So I'm not going to do with the school education sector much, but only 2-3 points just reading. Teacher recruitment will be based on TET, NTA, test and teaching demonstration. Please mind you, private schools have no freedom to appoint their teachers anymore as they wish, as it was, because already in the structural changes they have mentioned that private and public schools will be assessed, accredited and approved by the same agency. If so, TET exam will be mandatory for teaching in the schools. TET exam will be mandatory and minimum TET exam will be mandatory means it's examination has to be passed. All of you know that now it will be compulsory. Minimum 50 hours of in-service training for every teacher in every school, both private and public, conducted by this Parak and so on will conduct this examination. National Testing Agency and so on, and many other organizations have come in. They will conduct the regular in-service training for the teachers, 50 hours. Very good idea. Anyway, national professional standards for teachers will be done. Every teacher must go through national professional standard test now onwards. From 2022 onwards, this will begin. And NPST, the curriculum, the testing, marks, etc. will be in the form of UPSC. That like IAS, IPS, IFS, IRS, similarly NPST will be done. And the teachers must pass through this one. Existing teachers also must go through this one. Then only their teaching license will be given. And national professional standard test for teachers is going to be compulsory 2022 onwards. IT and database predictive planning, that is very good, no problem. Technology and so on is good. Keep this one. And here it is, you see, BA degree will be, by 2030, it will be only 4 years degree will be compulsory. And here are so many changes. I'm not reading. Only keep this aspect again. School complex and clusters for resource and sharing. This aspect must be studied well. I leave it to you to study how it is going to affect and how it is going positive or negative. You make your own conclusion, but I will give my opinion soon. Structural changes happen. I know by now you all learned it. New structures are proposed. Kothari Commission or the first education policy said Indian education must have 10+2 system. 10 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2 system. Now up to the higher secondary level, we say plus 10 plus 2. That means up to the age of 18. Now this system has changed into this. It has 4 aspects: foundational, preparatory, middle and secondary. And I think this aspect is, many of us are confused even today. They have not understood what is this 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. 5 is not talking about 0 to 5. 5 is not talking about class 1 to 5 either. It's talking about after 3. That means age 3, the child is entering into school. Age 3, that means 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or you can say like that, suppose a 3.5-year-old child. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 5 years of, after 3 years, that 5 years. That means here it is clear, up to the age of 8. 3 to 8 you look at, or 4 to 8, 5 years. This is called the first foundational stage. This stage teaching and so on will be differently done. No more textbooks, etc. Through games and arts and so on, play and so on, they will be teaching. Now, second part is called preparatory stage, 3 to 5 classes. Age-wise means 8 to 11. This class, they also follow this method. More or less same method in the teaching. Middle age, it is called, middle stage they call, class 6 to 8 or 11 to 14 age-wise. They will have a lot of subjects to teach, slowly initiated to subjects, and secondary stage will be into 8 or remember here the 16 to 18, here it is 14 to 18. That means higher secondary division will be now onwards, secondary division will be now onwards, 9, 10, 11 and 12 classes put together, clubbed together. So this structural change is the biggest change of school education sector. Okay. Now, I'm not, and the current, now it will be extended 3 age 3 to 12. That means age 13. And what is the preschools over the, now it is 6 age. It is class 1 2 also is integrated. What is it is called, I call it what you call Bal Vatika. Balwad is Bal Vatika. In Sanskrit, Vatika means garden. So they changed that word into it and then making it 3 to 8. Focus on health and nutrition in Anganwadis. This will be Anganwadis and preschools will be linked to schools. Now onwards, that 3 age onwards in the school, part of the school. Anganwadis are existing. That will be clubbed together with the schools now on. Rote learning and formal teaching preschools, that will be changed into focus on play and discovery based learning. I already mentioned. Now remember this Balwadis and Anganwadis, I don't know what in Kerala we call Anganwadi, I think. WCD, that means we are removed from them and brought into education ministry. This is a change. And both higher education, secondary education and primary education, etc., holistic development of learners is aimed at. You please read chapter 4, you will see what do they mean by this. Overall development, and through curriculum also will be formed. And remember, somebody asked me this question earlier, I'm just clarifying now itself. No state governments or no other agencies has any freedom to prepare curriculum. Only the central board, central agencies will prepare the curriculum, and government's duty, state government's duty as it is now, is will be translation and making it available to everybody, etc. So that means what the idea of the central government is, we will prepare everything, you people implement, you people do whatever you want, but what to teach, that we will decide in every school. And remember, when you say this one, you must understand already what I said, government and private schools will be the same assessment, accreditation, and so on and so forth. Is it going to be? See, reduction of curriculum, you have seen it already. I'm sure that all of it, this is not anything or any criticism. There are scholars that are already come out with this reduction, which is curriculum by central government. You are aware that I have removed from here. 30% reduction. These are the subjects they have removed. Anyway, experiential learning, arts and sports, etc., storytelling and so on going to be, and culture and sports will be given more importance. And the idea is learning must be a joyful experience. That is what we are also saying. Learning must be a joyful experience. Now, major reforms in school education, which already you have seen, I'm not going to take much time. Only thing, universalization of education, national mission of foundational literacy and numeracy, 5+3+3+ for curriculum, the curriculum to integrate 21st century skills, mathematical thinking, separation of arts, science, and extra activity between both and academics. There is no difference now onwards, both in this was very intelligent, extraordinary children. For the regular classes is not necessary. And taken, given better way, so on. Given to all the districts, and also up to, it will be extended up to 12 years in mind. Vocational integration national curriculum framework will be from childhood onwards, the early childhood education onwards, everywhere this curriculum framework. And I was told that the government has already constituted committees to do this in the central level already. Changed. Now 3, 5, standard 3, standard 5, standard 8 and standard 10 and 12 will be the examination national level. Examination pattern will be changed. What we are doing now may not be the examination at all going to be. Anyway, medium of instruction, still at least class grade 5 and preferably grade 8 and beyond in home language, mother tongue, regional tongue, etc. So this is a very, very big issue. I am sure that all of you must read it nicely now. 360-degree holistic progress card of a child. Tracking student progress. This is the National Assessment Center, PAREC. Please read that. NTA to offer common entrance test. See, now already people yesterday must have seen the discussion, etc. in the TV. And it's going to be National Testing Agency will common entrance test for higher education institutions. Keep this in mind, how dangerous it is going to be for our schools and colleges, etc. There will be a National Testing Agency will be conducting common entrance test, etc. And therefore, this has to be done like a NEET exam, like that they will go on, JEE exam, etc. National Professional Standard Test for teachers, it's a needed thing, very good. Book promotion policy and digital libraries will be improved, very good, we salute that idea. Transparent online self-disclosure for public overnight accountability, we keep this in mind. I told you, private and public schools only. No minority rights and minority schools have been mentioned. Therefore, transparent online self-disclosure means everything has to be self-disclosed by the institution, including their account and finance, etc. for public. Now come to the major point. I'll just take only a few more minutes very nicely. 50% of gross enrollment ratio by 2035 is visualized. Now it is only 26.6%. Will they achieve? I don't know. Holistic and multidisciplinary education, flexibility of subjects are available now for students. Multiple entry has been given. That means UG program has been constructed year 1, year 2, year 3, 4. Now remember, 1 year after you can leave, you will get a degree certificate. 2 years after if you leave, you will get a diploma certificate. 3 years after you leave means you will get a graduation certificate. 4 years after you leave the course, you will get a degree certificate with the research. With that one, you can go to higher education degrees like master's degree. That will be depending upon, if it is 3 years, you have to go for 2 years MA. If it is only 1 year, if it is only 4 years, then you can go for 1 year MA degree. MPhil will be discontinued. Credit transfer and academic bank credits have been established. Higher education institution, research intensive, teaching intensive universities and autonomous degree granting colleges will be allowed. As just since the introductory remark was made by Bishop that we are all going to get enough freedom, etc. for starting universities, that is one side is a welcoming thing, but at the same time, that university has certain criteria. No colleges will be allowed to run without having more than 3,000 students. So, in a rural belt, don't look at only one particular area or a particular state. Look at overall India. In a tribal belt, in a Dalit belt, in a faraway places in the northeast, you may not have in a college 3,000 students. In Arunachal Pradesh, I have been to all these places. I know how much students to walk if to reach this is the system going to be, then it's very, very difficult. Model Multidisciplinary Education and Research University, Meru, will be introduced. In every district, there will be one Meru. So that means that will absorb, it's like a university type, all students will be absorbed into it. Very good. Graded autonomy will be given. When you start a college like Alfonso College, Tiruvambadi will be given graded autonomy. Academic, administrative, financial assessment will be done. Accordingly, they will be given. The autonomy will be for academic, administrative, financial area. Phasing out affiliation system in 15 years, you cannot affiliate to any university. The number of colleges will be reduced from 49,000 to 15,000 in India. National mission on mentoring will be done. You please keep all this in mind. Who is going to mentor, etc.? That is the question. Independent board of governors will be given. You see, they said already a lot of freedom is given. At the same time, board of governors is going to be independent board of governors by the government. Single regulator for higher education, including legal and medical. Online self-disclosure, as I said, private school education, same in the higher education also. Common norms for public and private higher education institution. Keep this, underline this one. Common norms for public and private higher education institutions. Private philanthropic partnership. See, this one, I just say for your information, people see this one, oh, very good thing. Private and higher education, very good. They will actually, is it private government schools, will it they raise to the private standard? Or they will pull back the private schools to go back to the government board? That's the question you must understand, given the political and bureaucratic setup in India. Private philanthropic partnership is a very dangerous word. Philanthropic is a very good word, actually. But this adjective is given here is to only to bring corporate into it, this field. So that because the earlier policy, TSR Subramaniam, all of the academicians opposed that privatization too much, and that is why they put, let us go with this one, same thing, but add up a philanthropy. You know, Reliance company or any other company is coming from abroad on India. Philanthropy, in the name of philanthropic, they will center their education institutions in the bigger cities only. Nobody is going to reach out to the villages. Nobody is going to reach out to the rural areas. So anyway, that is one thing. Fee fixation within board regulatory framework will be done. Public investment of education sector reaches to 6%. Very nicely, they are saying 6%. It's a wonderful looking, very good. Done. If it is done, well and good. But no government has given, and this government also is not giving us, where do they get that money? Which route it is coming? Is it private companies are giving? They are not told. And given the nature of this government, giving everything to private companies, you can imagine that also as part of it. Major reforms in higher education is this. One of the thing is National Research Foundation will be done. Internationalization of education will be done. Integration of vocational and teacher professional education. All of you know these things, and therefore I am going. Only one word, remember, multidisciplinary, I will tell you later. Special education zone, if you have questions only. A special education zone will be given disadvantaged regions in the name of caste and religion, I mean, what you call, on the wave of caste and group. Like it, Dalits and tribals and SSC, ST and minority is have been mentioned here. Not about minority Christians, only minority Muslim area, because this was the report of the Sachar Commission report. National Institute for Pali, Persian and Pragar, please pay attention to these three languages. How well, what you call spoken languages are all these in the modern world, just to keep in mind. National Education Technology Forum will be introduced. MHRD will be changed as Education Ministry. Now, what is the Indian knowledge system and so on? They are talking about focus on literature and scientific vocabulary, Indian languages. Very good. Language faculty will be given. Research on languages will be done. 3 languages which I already mentioned. Strengthening national institutes, promotion of classical language and literature. Indian Institute of Translation and Interpretation will be done. Cultural awareness for Indian knowledge system. Again and again they are banking on this. Promoting traditional arts and Lokavidya. Higher education institutions, schools or school complex to have artists in residence. Okay. Now, Use of technology, they have mentioned very well. I am not going to deal with that one. Technology will be used at every level. That much is understandable. Outcome, they are expecting also very many. Universalization by 2030, along with the Sustainable Development Goals number 4. Attaining foundational learning, numeracy, etc. 100% gross enrollment ratio in all the schools and so secondary level. Bring back 2 crore people out of school children. Teachers to be prepared, inclusive, equitable education system, all these time-bound things have been given. So, in fact, the NEP 20 itself is an exercise of imposing uniformity and standardization along a single axis of control and power. Complete centralization is the one which is paradoxical given in India's size, population, diversity, and constitutional federalism. That is the one area, keep in mind. Not, they are talking about merit-based education, not inclusion. That means, you know, the people who are marginalized, if it is only everything is centralized and merit-based, who will be left out? That is a question we must ask. Holistic, they talk about holistic education instead of a liberal education. Very good. These words are all very, very pregnant with meanings. Shallow eclecticism, and rather than criticality. NEP 2020 is full of pious keywords that mask a violent lurch back towards hierarchy and unfreedoms. In fact, that is it. So I just leave it here for, we'll come back and then concerns, if I get time, I will explain. I think otherwise I will be going on talking. You can have your own questions and clarifications if you want now. Any questions, or you are most welcome. After that, if there is a certain concerns, I can express. So the higher education sector, a lot of changes are going to happen. You know why I did not explain everything in detail? Because I know you must have read already, because based on the questions I have seen, that some of you have read it, so the questions has come in. And school education, higher education, and even technical education area, adult education, and etc. has been touched upon, and very well. So if you have any general questions or something, I'll be able to answer if you wish. Over to you, the moderator, whoever it is.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Okay. Now it's the time of question and answering time. Attendees, please raise your questions and queries.
You can write also on the chat box so that it will be easy for us. Anybody? Nobody. If nobody is there, then I will go again. I'll concerns also I will share.
Okay, sir.
Shall I? Keep your questions there, because the next 15 minutes I'll take the concerns very fast. This will give you a lot of ideas, I'm sure. First of all, this is my own assessment about the policy. When I say this one, I'm not in any way asking you to agree fully with me. You yourself make an assessment. But I just express as an educationist in the country, especially looking at for an integral education by minority schools, etc. I just say this one. Number one is, say, rhetoric or genuine? That's my question. So much of wonderful words have been used. Is it just rhetoric or genuine? In the sense, the free breakfast scheme proposed through sound move will increase the fiscal burden, but where is the money coming in? Secondly, we already seen the midday meal schemes in the many parts of the country has been already in corrupt situation, and irregularities were there. Now they are saying it has to be increased to 18 years old as well as breakfast also. But is it how viable and practicable given the situation now? Second, what I am saying is dichotomy of words and action. This is my way of looking at. Why? Because any policy never happens in the vacuum. What is the reality in the country today? Not only with this government or anything, I'm telling you the country's situation. Though policies speak out encouraging critical thinking, etc., you just look at what happened to Prashant Bhushan itself, you can understand. It's not a politics, no? It's about even court, where it is heading to. that's it. You can think about the action and the talk. Socio-cultural issues. The dangers of revivalism are inherent in the call to study Indian culture, as there is a possibility that the majoritarian culture would emerge as the Indian culture at the cost of other cultures. Other cultures, what I mean is like the Dalits, the tribals, the northeastern culture, etc. And the areas wherever, for example, other areas, for example, the Sufism, very well integrated in the Indian situation. All these things have been neglected, and it can be neglected. I'm not telling it is neglected. It can be neglected because the onslaught of one thing. For that one, you kindly read, if you want to understand this one, kindly read chapter 4, verse 11 onwards. Chapter 4, verse 11 onwards, systematically you must read that 10 points, which is multilingualism and the power of language. If you read that one, you will understand what I mean. Issue of quality teachers. Now, my dear teachers and friends here, all of you agree with me that India lacks good teachers. I'm sure that all of us are faced with that problem. I am looking after 550 schools in India, in Sri Lanka, in Afghanistan, in Bhutan, in Pakistan, in Nepal, Bangladesh. I'm in charge in South Asian countries, all our Jesuit schools and colleges. Everywhere the same complaint that we don't have quality teachers. Why? Because the 9th class or 10th class, you go and ask in an English medium school and ask the students what they want to become. They will all say engineer, doctor, and things like that. Nobody thinks about teaching. That means the best ones are not entering into teaching job. So that is the background. Suddenly we are thinking that already existing B.Ed college also we are going to close. Where do we get quality teachers? I have an apprehension about this very seriously. There is no word about reservation in the 60-page document at all. So no provision for reservation in either admission or appointments. You already saw everything will go on merit. Looks very good, but that's not the reality of India. You come to Jharkhand, you come to Bihar, you come to Orissa, you come to Tamil Nadu, you will understand what I'm speaking. The NAP 2020 club all this as underprivileged section and no distinction other caste, etc. And remember, India's problem is not only economy, it is also a problem of caste that had to be mentioned in the policy of education. Then only things will change. Privatization issues. NEP states that the education system should emerge as the hub of the next industrial revolution. If this is like Macaulay, no? Macaulay's education policy in the 1850, early 1800s, 32 or something, you know that Macaulay brought this policy only to create Indians to work with the British government. Now, this policy also talk about industrial revolution, etc. That means what is the real purpose of education? Vivekananda says education must be exhibiting what is already in man. Nehru says, Gandhiji says, great scholars all says, Aurobindo says, all wonderful people says, we must give integral education. And that has to be head, heart and hand. All these things have to happen, not for making people only skillful for this. This is a very important criticism has come from all sectors about WTO agreement. WTO had agreement on tariff and services, general agreement on tariff and services, both healthcare and education. That is why a lot of commercialization is coming into force in educational sector, especially allowing the foreign university to come into India, etc. This all will remain. Very good idea. I have no problem. Oxford University come in, Cambridge University come, Santa Clara University come, no problem. But remember, let them go to the village and start for the poor. Will they? That's a question. Autonomy and regulation issues. A lot of they said everything is free hand, we will be given, etc. in one side. Another side they are saying the Rashtriya Shiksha Ayog, that is the RSA, will the apex body which control the entire education sector. So it will lead to increasing bureaucratic control and surveillance rather than giving more freedom. Pedagogical issues are there. In the section of teacher education, they talks about India's values, ethos, knowledge and traditions, etc. Chapter 7. But it makes no mention of teachers being socially sensitive and capable of acquiring knowledge and power formation, etc. and also uphold constitutional values that have not been mentioned. There, 1 minute I am telling, we'll come to that point. Failed assessment of the past. Why? Why the government schools in the country have failed? There is no study done about that. And every policy talks about improvement, improvement, improvement. Nothing has happened. Political and financial issues are also involved in this one. Political issue is this: Parliament never discussed and debated a very important policy like this. Under the new policy, the government aimed at increasing the public spending from 4.2, 4.6 to 6%. But where will the money come from? That has not been mentioned. The policy, the ambitious and complex document, it is wonderful. But why did they bring out in the pandemic and lockdown periods? That's another question you must ask. 6% GDP, is it a dream or a reality? Because we know the situation of the country and where is the money coming from. Is it a smart planning? Smart planning means, no, the smart, every plan must be smart, etc. Is it so? Anyway, I'm not going to read this one, just look at the amount of 50% by 2035, etc. Is it possible in India at this current rate? If it happens, well and good, no problem. We are very much for that enrollment and we are doing our bit for getting the people into the schools. Minority rights, a lot to talk about minority rights, which is a constitutional rights, which is not mentioned at all. No talk on minority rights anywhere in the policy, though 3 times the word minorities along with SC, ST minorities mentioned, but not about minority rights at all. Private and government are the 2 words frequently used. What about the constitutional rights? Is research a priority? They talk about research-oriented situation will be built up and so on. Structures will be built up. Well and good. If it is done, I have no problem. But the current situation doesn't show that. For example, the total investment on research and innovation in India declined from 0.84 of GDP in 2008 to 0.6% in 2018. There are currently only 15 researchers in India for 1 lakh people. In China, 111 people are there for 1 lakh people. This is I have taken from, quoted from Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Does school complex work? Some proposals need a detailed explanation. Because is it meant only for government schools? Is it meant for private schools? Kindly go through chapter 7, paragraph number 10. It is very clearly mentioned both private and public school will be twined together, clubbed together. And the private government schools facilities will be used for the lesser privileged schools, etc. So this is one thing. Secondly, if it is a central school is here, suppose in your place, Tiruvambadi, and 5 to 10 kilometers surrounding in the hills, will the children come to this main school nowadays? Don't look at only Kerala. Look at the places like Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh and so on, where Muslims or Christians are persecuted severely. Will any parent send a girl to 10 kilometers, 5 kilometers to walk? You saw the other day, last week, a young girl of 13-year-old was raped in UP, cut her tongue, removed her eyes. Will that village, anyone will send a young girl to a 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers dur? What the government should have done is more and more facilities should have been given to the areas rather than dumping the responsibility to school complex, even though school complex is a very good idea. Because when you talk about the idea, you must see also the ground realities. How would this work in practice? Kids can't go miles for basics. Will we overcome the teacher shortage? Which already I asked. Centralization and privatization is going to be very much. Privatization doesn't mean that Christian private schools. It's going to be corporate schools with millions and millions of rupees will be invested and huge situation in the cities will be coming and so on. What about the existing schools and colleges? Anyway, and my point is this will drive up cost and make many opportunities unaffordable for the poor people. They cannot get into Oxford University somewhere. Anyway, philanthropy I already told. Language policy, many of you asked me questions. We welcome the move, but also given the situation, We are unsure about how the government plans to implement such a system, especially in a diverse country like India. Kindly read chapter 7, I think, chapter 10, I think, chapter multilingualism, chapter 4, verses 10 onwards, or talking about language policy. Slowly, they are bringing up, building up, paragraph wise, and reaching to finally an ice break and end up in Sanskrit. Such a way they are built up slowly and ending up in Sanskrit as the main language to be taught everywhere, etc., etc. And also the 2-3 language policy. 2 languages from India, 1 language, a foreign language will be taught. Korean and so on, it will be mentioned. Japanese mentioned, German and French mentioned, English is mentioned as equal as any other languages. But Sanskrit is much more encouraged and made it everywhere. Problem of Sanskrit. Sanskrit is more a language of, I'm stopping it, language of ritual and classical texts. Sanskrit carries a pejorative language, a Brahmanical language. How it will reach out to everybody if it is made compulsory? Special education, you already saw what Tamil Nadu is doing, really opposing it. All entire groups, political parties, religion group, everybody. Anyway, special education zones is also, the scholars say it is not going to work out very well because we are already naming disadvantaged groups such as scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, OBC, Muslims, etc. Rather than economic backwardness, they are putting up, they see that group, which is not very, very good for education sector. We have missed opportunities. Government should have given why government schools are failing. Their teacher accountability must have been taken into question. But that has not come at all. Multidisciplinary education, the higher section, higher education, very good idea. Colleges will have multiple subjects will be taught. Engineering college or nursing college or whatever it is. If a student wants to study engineering and if she wants to go for literature, she can. Politics, very good. Political science. And if she wants to join for arts and science, well and good. No problem. Everything will be available in one umbrella that is called college or a school. But then it talks about, please read that chapter. It talks about many subjects in the multidisciplinary institutions. They talk about many languages, many subjects they have mentioned. But remember, it has not mentioned some subjects which are very, very important. That is also making intelligent people like you must think. I'll read out the subject. They talk about departments in languages, literature, music, philosophy, Indology, art, dance, theater, education, mathematics, statistics, pure and applied sciences, sociology, economics, sports, and translation and interpretation, etc. will be coming under multidisciplinary subject. I would have no problem, my dear fathers and sisters and brothers and teachers here. I would not have questioned a single doubt I would have expressed if they have not mentioned any of these subjects. Since they have mentioned these subjects, I am asking, why did they leave the study on women? Women study these days, it's called feminist studies. There's no study on developmental studies, no study on peace education, no study on conflict resolution, no study on the modern subjects like many have come up. Those subjects have been simply ignored. For example, climate change, all those things. Since some are mentioned, we are doubting why they have all the progressive subject has been removed. Anyway, constitution and secularism, these two things are not very much. Constitution is mentioned, but I told you constitution that mentioned on fundamental duties. I hope, my dear friends, without any political prejudice, please understand what I am trying to say. Fundamental duties means you must respect your nation, respect your national flag, respect your national anthem, and so on and so forth. This is about your duty to respect the nation. No problem, we must teach. But they should have mentioned about the fundamental rights that individual has, the freedom of religion. Individual has the freedom of expression. Now you know what happened in Prashant Bhushan's case. We know what is happening in the country. We know anybody is questioning where is their place, etc. So fundamental duties is fine, but the fundamental rights, why they excluded, that's why people are raising these questions. They may have justification. Let us listen to them when they say. Federal structure is also a little bit, as Bishop said, that somebody has asked me earlier, some question also is here. Education, which ought to be the state subject under concurrent list, I already explained, is now firmly with the union government. RTE, right to education, is a very, very important thing. I think that is, I'm not telling, I'm just quoting from a great man who brought out this RTE, which is called Dr. Ambrish Rai, the RTE forum. He says, RTE is diluted. That means after making RTE compulsory during the last 10 years, we have achieved 12.6% of the goals only. Now, if you dilute that one, this also will go down. That means again, the victims will be the Dalits, the tribals, the weaker sections, the Muslims, and any sector, girl children will be victimized. So, what was required in NEP was to take baby steps to address the abysmal teacher-student ratio, extremely poor infrastructure in schools, instead of announcing more grand plans and create another new framework. Finally, those who know, those who understand this as with all the positivities, lot of goodness, as I mentioned in the beginning, along with this one, we need to understand the agenda that is set in the behind the policy. For example, it talks about building upon India's traditions and value systems. It adds that the rich heritage of ancient and eternal Indian knowledge and thought has been given the guiding light for this policy. For example, it talks about Nalanda University, Takshala University, all kinds of earlier people, but they have not talked anything about the contribution, as rightly the bishop mentioned about the Christian contribution, about the Jesuit contribution in 1942 onwards, much before the Saint Chavara Kuriakose Elias came into existence. Already in 1942, the first school has been started, St. Paul's School in Goa. After that, numerous colleges, India's top 10 colleges, even 6 colleges will be Christian colleges. Not to mention. Now, look at the medieval period. There were wonderful, don't think that everything was bad. There was Sufism, sort of intermingling, wonderful cultures have been come up. You see, anywhere you go in the country, you will find wonderful mixture of various cultures and so on, which has not been mentioned. Therefore, one doubts. I don't know. The doubt is 100% correct and so on, I don't know, but one can doubt. And experts say, for example, Nandita Narayan, St. Stephen College's professor, she said, when looking at the policy, she says, this is a national exclusion policy, not an education policy. But at the same time, there are many people supporting also. Another person, a great person says about this is, you know, all of you must know this Professor Krishna Kumar was a former chairman of NCERT, a great scholar. He says, why in a hurry this policy? Now they are declaring suddenly without discussion, etc. and so on. And then he also says, the document is having only 60 page or 65 page documents. Why there is no annexure, no details, no explanation, anything about the questionable things and so on, he is asking. So my last word is this one. It is we need to have way forward is this one only. Need for cooperative federalism. State must be given importance. Strive towards universalization of education. We must make everybody gets educated and make RTE more stronger. Bringing digital divide. This, you know, we talk about digital classes, etc. For your information, the only state which is doing something in the digital area for everybody, even though some minor percentage of failure is there, but still that is the only state which is Kerala. You must appreciate that digital divide through TV and so on they are doing. You come to North India, any state I can explain to you, not even 30% of students are getting the digital classes, etc. 70% of people have been excluded because states are not interested in giving education. Interministerial coordination must be done. Interministerial coordination, what I mean is, Child Welfare Ministry, Women's Welfare Ministry, Tribal Ministry, Finance Ministry, Education Ministry, Technical Education, all these things should work together. Don't simply leave it only to the Education Ministry. And finally, it is to be hoped that beyond immediate excitement that the announcement of the implementation of the NEP has generated, there will be opportunities to examine its long-term implications and, if necessary, revisit it before it is actually implemented. All the positivities we accept, we need to take it forward. But at the same time, the concern expressed must be answered if need be rectified. So ask Christian education institutions from St. Alexa College. I just asked these questions for you to reflect. Ask Christian missionary educationists. We cannot be, see, these are the questions. I'm just putting 5 questions for you. What are your suggestions to face the challenges proposed by NEP 2020? How do you assess this policy? In your own opinion, and I see some of you have written some questions, etc. to me. Some of you have mentioned your assessment last part. I see that. Again, what should the Catholic minority groups do now? Since there is no minority rights and so on. And also it is all power is going from central states to central mostly. And finally, which area of the policy do you find good? Don't say everything is bad. There are very many good things. What do you find good? And which area of the policy do you find harmful? There are areas, if there is something, we need to reach out and tell everybody that we need to bring that changes that are necessary. Thank you very much. I stop it here. And further, if there is any question, I hope many of your doubts are clarified already. In case any questions specific, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Father, there are some questions in the chat box. Could you
read out? Could you read out and I'll explain? Yeah, please.
Yes, okay, Father. Okay, I'll just read it out. First one is a question about which are the constitutional values left from the NEP. That's the question from Albin. It's from Albin. Yeah. Which are the constitutional values left out from the NEP?
I understood. See, you must understand. As I said, if they say constitutional values, and they're stressing only one aspect, it is questionable. For example, as I said very clearly, the fundamental rights have not been given any importance. You just check anywhere. When it talks about B.Ed college, when it talks about school teaching, when it is the higher education sector, everything they are saying, along with this Indian culture and ethos, etc., values and so on, everybody, the education must stress on fundamental duties. I hope, without again, politics or anything, I'm just telling you, anywhere in the world, the nationalist forces will stress on fundamental duties like this situation. Anywhere in the world, we see that. So, for example, Germany, it happened in the USA also, happened in what is Trump is doing, etc. We know. So, everywhere this is not particular to any party or anything. It is happening. So, that part you just keep in why they stress this one. And recently the High Court, Supreme Court has given national duties, has to be stressed. For example, national anthem, when it is played in the cinema theater, also people should stand and so on. You must have heard about in Lucknow, one person in wheelchair was watching the movie, was simply beaten up, etc. So stressing that is very good, no problem. But at the same time, don't leave any other aspect. If it is only commonly put to constitutional values like our fundamental rights and also preamble of the Indian Constitution, which is talking about everything is fantastic, that has to be stressed. But that much is not visibly manifested here. They're only focusing on too much about fundamental duties. Yes.
Father, here's other questions too. Like what about the distribution of funds for education, and will there be reservation policy for the higher education? And is there any substitute for MPhil? The MPhil is going to be cut off from the, it's not considered as a qualification anymore. So that's also his question.
Very good. Wonderful question. That is a very good question. Let me tell you, first of all, there is a reservation is not mentioned anywhere in the policy. Since it is not mentioned, I hope those who are sitting here, intelligent people, will understand what is which are the organization talking about reservation, etc. If you understand that one, you will understand why it didn't come here. Okay. Anyway, now reservation is not, it is not here. So therefore, there is no question of reservation for higher education or whatever education it is. It's not going to happen. Now, it may happen, but we don't know. But it is not mentioned. That's my point. I am looking at the policy. Now, the last part of that one you asked is, sorry, what was the last part of that? Father, Matthew? Suddenly it went off from my mind.
Father, reservation, about reservation.
That I said already. Next one.
Okay. Is there any substitute for MPhil? That's another question.
Sorry. MPhil is scrapped. Okay. So instead of that one, they have increased the 4 years of degree, no? In that one year degree is, fourth year is meant for research. And with that degree, you can go for MA in 1 year. And from there, you can straight away get into PhD. So there is substitute, that is a research degree will be given after your degree 4 year.
Okay.
And those who completed BA, for 3 years BA degree, they have to complete 2 years of MA degree. 4 years degree students will go degree and jump into PhD, no more. That means what they say is, MPhil is what actually? Research. That research will be brought into degrees or the post-graduation level.
There is one more question, Father. What about the future of NAAC and UGC in the accreditation and monitoring of higher education institutions?
I understood. See, all these structures have been reworked upon, and instead of having centralized format, they have changed into independent autonomous agencies to look after the colleges have been started, higher education institutions. That means UGC, the form is already changed. NAAC has changed. Instead of that one, many other organizations have come into the center. That means it's there. What they want is, now UGC is centralizing everything, academic as well as grant, etc. is with them. Now UGC now onwards will be only a grant giving agency, not academic. Are you getting this? NAAC will be only about accreditation, but they don't have any other role. What their meaning, government is saying is, the policy says is, it will give more autonomy to many agencies, and the schools will be easy to access, etc. They say one word, they say is what is called it is called light and tight policy. You know, light and tight policy. They say light means it seems to be very when it makes it light, red tape will not be there, etc. In fact, in actuality, it will be have more red tapes, because there are many agencies are going to check you. See, that is why when our own bishop said about too much of freedom is given, etc. Please read once again thoroughly. Then you will see many agencies are going to operate on this assessment, accreditation, and so on and so forth. Approval, they say, approval, accreditation, and assessment will be done by different agencies. That is why.
So there is one more question. What about the education of children with disabilities?
That's one chapter is there, Father, on disability children. Means more inclusive education must be given, and they will be, for example, they in Hindi we call it Divyang. So Divyang children will be given technological education. So technology will be suiting them, and better education will be given in the schools, etc. Which also will added demand will be there in our schools, etc. All our schools will be, because inclusive education is that which proposed in the policy. It's a good idea. At the same time, then we need to increase our facility. Our teachers should be capable of this. The trained teachers should be there, etc. Will be there. Yeah.
One more question about examinations for the UG programs. How the examinations are proposed to be conducted for the UG programs?
The examination, one chapter is there on UG exams, mostly on credit-based examination will be conducted, and the entire from schooling to higher education, the concept will be of whether you understood the concept or not. Not concept will be how you understood the concept of the subject which you are studying, rather than simply mugging up and so on. So therefore, the guidelines for that one will be coming within a year. That is what the timeline given. Within a year, the guidelines will be coming, what type of an examination, which agency will be conducting what. Now, remember about these boards. Let me tell you with regards to examination. For example, some question also had come here. What about the future of CBSE, ICSE, and state boards? For your information, scholars, all of you must understand, there are 61 boards in India. 61 boards. For example, CBSE, ICSE or ISC schools, one. Then we have state boards in many states, all together, put together, 61 boards are there. That is the data shows. Now, all these 61 boards will be continuing, but their duty will be different. For example, Kerala Education Board, according to the policy, but I am sure that Kerala is not going to accept. Kerala already opposed, Tamil Nadu opposed, Karnataka opposed, many other states have been opposed, West Bengal has opposed, North is entirely opposing. Let's see how it works out. But then what they're saying is, these boards will continue, but in different form. Their duty will be only conducting examination and assessment proposed by the center, and issuing certificates, etc. But the curriculum framework, state lost the power. And that is why the states are going to federalism. They will oppose, definitely. Many of the states will oppose. So examination pattern, according to the government, will be given 1 month, 1 year will be given for us to get to the guidelines, etc. But remember, before that, already UP government yesterday, 3 days ago, I had a meeting. Then UP, some of the prominent people were telling me, already they have constituted a 17-member committee to introduce the education policy as it is. Madhya Pradesh government is going ahead with, Gujarat has gone ahead with, and many other states. West Bengal already, the High Court has verdicted that the minority schools should submit their all these details, etc. Everybody is going ahead with that. Every state is going ahead with this policy, and government has asked all of you now. I'm sure that you must have got the letter asking you to submit by 31st of August your opinion, your suggestions, etc. on NEP, not about the changes. They have asked about you to submit how are you going to implement this policy. Now remember, this is only a policy, but they have already started implementing without having the ratification in the parliament or anything. So that's the way this government goes ahead. So that is the area of concern again. Examination changes will be given to us soon. Yes, Father. Any other?
Nothing serious, it seems, Father. Okay. Anyway, I think it's done for today. So I invite Dr. Chaco KV for a vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, Fathers all, and Dr. Devasya and Professor Devasya and Father Gio and everybody here. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, over.
Chaco, sir?
Let him join, Father. Just a minute.
Okay.
By the way, Father, can you explain what is the Meru concept?
Our most distinguished chief guest, His Excellency Maharaj Jilani, Honorable Resource Person, Dr. Father Sunny Jacob S.J., and other distinguished delegates. First of all, I would like to report a hearty vote of thanks to our chief guest, His Excellency Maharaj Jilani, for gracing today's national webinar. Thank you, His Excellency, for your very valuable and thought-provoking inaugural address. I would like to thank our honorable distinguished resource person, Dr. Father Sunny Jacob S.K., for making an excellent presentations, interactions, and making this webinar very interesting and meaningful. Thank you, Father. Thank you very much. I also express my profound gratitude to the corporate manager, Father Binoy Puredatil, college manager, Father Saji Mangarel, other managers, principals, headmasters of various colleges, higher secondary schools and high schools, and other educationists, and also other delegates for their active participation and interaction. Finally, I congratulate and thank the IPSC wing of the Alfonsa College Tiruvambadi, especially Father Gio, Father Soni, and also Father Shanish, our Vice Principal, and other faculty members and organizers for making this webinar a grand success. Once again, thank you, and thank you very much to one and all. Thank you very much.
Okay, something to remind to the participants. Please fill in the feedback form share, and you will be receiving your certificate once you fill in that. After about 24 hours, you will be receiving your certificate. Thank you, Father, again. Father, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you and welcome.
Okay, bye. Bye, everyone.